Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so it's going onto Michael's phone. So you have audio.
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt their meeting.
Oh, no, you're not on that meeting.
Okay.
You're not on that. We've got 2 more minutes.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hello, this is, excuse me.
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt their meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, this is, excuse me.
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt their meeting.
Yes.
Hello, this is.
And you let Josh Allen roll to his right with no pressure. That's by
All right, it's 7 p.m. and I'd like to go ahead and to call to order the October 2021, October 18th, 2021 Battleground City Council meeting. If everybody will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the
of the
flag,
United States of
United
America,
States of America,
and to the republic,
to the republic
for
for
which
which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
All right, if I can have the city clerk please take roll.
Like Councilmember Walters,
Here.
Wellman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Davis,
Here.
DeRochers,
Here.
Munson,
Here.
and Mayor Cortez.
Here. Thank you. All right, council member summary reports. Council. Councilmember DeRochers.
Yeah, I attended the Joint Executive Group on Homelessness. I believe it was last week. And they've decided to kind of put it on hold for a little bit just to work some things out. So I'll keep you updated as to what the future holds for that group.
Okay, thank you so much. Look forward to hearing updates as you can provide them to us. Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and move to the mayor's report. Council, I don't really have anything to report this time. So I'll go ahead and move from my mayor's report to our first presentation of the evening. This is a presentation from the Friends of the Cedar Golf Course. I will go and turn it over to our city manager to set up the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Cortez. Good evening, everyone. With us tonight is Leo Van Dolsen. He's representing the Cedars neighborhood, and they would like to ask for council's buy-off on a letter of support to ask for the county to shift their application. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Van Dolsen, and then we'll have time for questions at the end.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present this proposal to the city council. The Friends of the Cedars Golf Course are looking for ways to optimize the way in which the county purchases and handles the property out here at the Cedars Golf Course. In so doing, we've determined that we definitely support the proposal by the county, but we'd like them to go a little bit further to make things even better for our community and for the city of Battle Ground and for the neighborhood. We have surveyed many in our community. We've gone door to door extensively, talked to lots of people. We even put together a neighborhood meeting over at the community center. And thank you, Mayor Cortez, for attending that meeting. And thank you, City Manager Aaron Erdman, for being there also. We really appreciated your presence. Beyond that, we have worked with the Greater Brush Prairie Neighborhood Association, and we've received their endorsement for a plan that we've developed as a result of talking to so many different people in the community. More recently, I met with the golf coaches from the various high schools. They are very concerned about the possibility of losing a golf course in this area, and we're seemingly very pleased with the proposal that we have put together. So we do have a lot of local support, but as we approach the county, and we've continued actually to talk to the county in various ways, but it would really help in terms of our credibility and even some momentum if we could persuade, or if the city would be willing to give us a letter of support for the proposal that we have in front of you. I would mention that the proposal is a fluid proposal. It's not at all rigid. It leaves plenty of wiggle room, but it reflects general ideas and vision of things that we would really like to see happen out here, and that I would think that the people of Battle Ground would be very interested in also. So with that in mind, I don't think I'll read the proposal to you because I understand you've had access to it, but I'll be very interested in your comments and ready to answer questions. Before going there, though, I was wondering if we can show the maps or not. And I guess I don't have any way to point, even though they sent me a way to do it. I don't think it's working for me, but are the maps available?
I do not have them. I'm sorry, I thought you were going to pull them up. So.
All righty. Long story short, the county has alternative 5, which buys the whole golf course, including the clubhouse. Right now, though, they seem to prefer alternative 1, which leaves a fair section of the golf course to the owner and his devices. The neighborhood is very concerned about that option, and so we are trying to persuade the county to buy the whole thing, or nearly the whole thing, which would be everything other than just the clubhouse. And we are trying to show them how that would be very advantageous to us. We've invited the county councilors to come out and tour the golf course with us so that they can better understand that principle. At the same time, we have a second track, which is to convince the county people that, in fact, the prevailing laws or codes that come from the revised Code of Washington do actually allow for an active use of this property. Right now, the opinion is that it has to be a passive use, which means minimal development. And we're working diligently with them on this effort to show them that the laws actually allow them to do some very active and interesting things out here. So with all that in mind as the background, we have organized this proposal to try to get some solidarity among us, and hopefully this will include the city of Battle Ground as we go forward to the city, to the county, and make our presentations. I was going to introduce the faces, by the way, of all the local supporters. And let me just see, This is all too complicated for me. This is the first time, but I'll just mention, maybe you're seeing Dave Kirsch up there. He's the HOA president out at the Cedars Village. He represents 117 homes, and he personally is very supportive of what we're doing. I don't know if you can see Jeffrey Cox up there, but he is a leader over in the Cedars 3 Loop area, and he represents quite a few homes over there. And he has indicated support for what we are doing. You may see someplace Carol or Patterney. She's a leader of Cedars 1. It gets kind of confusing, particularly without that map, but we have quite a few neighborhoods over here. There are 50 homes in her area, and she is definitely a leader in that community. You may be seeing Mike Kramer. He's an executive committee member of our group. He has been our liaison with the county and is trying to arrange for more meetings with the county officials. You may see Barbara Voigt up there. She's an executive committee member, and she's from Cedars 4. And there are many homes in Cedars 4. Do you know how many, Barbara? 22 homes here of very concerned citizens about what is developing here in our neighborhood. You may be seeing Scott Eichelman, maybe Catherine Eichelman. Scott has been responsible for hosting our various get-togethers, and all of these people represent quite a number of folks. I happen to represent 18 homes in the Cedars 2 division. So all of us have come together. We're very interested in what's going to happen, and we are trying to be active in terms of optimizing the results for this community, as well as for the city of Battle Ground. As I understand it, this is part of the city of Battle Ground out here. Thank you very much for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your brief presentation there. All right, Councilmember Walters.
Have you put any thought into who would administrate the golf course if the county did decide to purchase it?
Definitely. We're not trying to be too specific about this yet. At this point, we're trying to persuade the county to leave the option open when they buy this. Right now, their application narrows it down to this passive use. We're trying to show them that they can, in fact, plan and use wording that allows an active use. After that occurs, when they purchase the property, then we can actively get involved in how that active use could be produced. We're looking at ways that we can help them do that. We're thinking of a private management company can come in. The laws seem to allow that, where a private management company would come in and manage a 9-hole course, and the rest would go to wetlands and park systems and so on. We're looking at RCO applications, Recreation Conservation Office funds that can actually be used for helping to develop these things. And I think we mentioned in our proposal that we might be even looking at an LID, which is this limited improvement. I think Mayor Cortez brought that idea up, and we have been looking at that possibility where the local folks would actually have some investment into what's going on out here. But the bottom line actually is we're asking the county to just leave the options open so that once they own the property, we can talk about those details further.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Walters. Councilmember DeRochers.
Yeah, I just want to comment that I would much rather have the option to have the active use. I mean, it's nice to have a nature preserve or whatever they were planning on doing it with it, but we need golf courses too, and the students need somewhere to practice. Maybe if somebody else ran it, it'd be more affordable. Maybe I'd take up golf. But yeah, I definitely would like the active option, the active purchase. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeRochers. Deputy Mayor Johnson.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the presentation. Just one observation here from me as a guy who's been here a while in the city council. It's a little shocking to me that the Cedars folks would come to the city, because over the years, our relationship with the Cedars folks has been, don't touch us, we won't touch you. And as they've come to our meetings, they've pretty much stated to us that they have no need for us, that they'll go to Orchards to shop. They'll go to Winco to shop. So I am glad to see maybe there's a turn of the Cedar folks to not view us in such a negative light. And as far as the golf course goes, you should probably talk a little more with the county, because when the county rec guy was here, he didn't even realize that you couldn't get to the part they wanted if they didn't buy pretty much all of it. That the golf course owner would have to grant them an easement to even get to the part they wanted. So I'm not sure they've given it much thought either in the big scheme of things. And one of your proposals was that the city at some point would join in. I don't know that I would plan on that, sir. As far as the city joining in as a recreation area or something like that, we have enough issues as it is without taking on a partial golf course or a nature preserve or whatever they decide they want to do. I saw the letters from the the golf coaches, and I appreciate their problems, but this is a county deal. As I told the golf coaches, I'll be glad to say, okay, fine, let's send them a letter, but it's really not our role to play in this. This is between the county and you guys as neighbors of the property. We don't have anything to do with it, but I personally don't see anything wrong sending a letter saying, hey, we think this is a fine idea to move forward on. So I wish you the best of luck, but it can be very difficult. And I think you're finding out dealing with the county is not the most easy thing in the world. And I wish you a lot of luck, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Johnson. Anybody else? Councilmember Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too appreciate your presentation tonight. And I get that we need to be able to have these open spaces to recreate, and it's a great golf course. None of us were on council when it came into the city, but it is an asset to the city, and you hate to see it disappear. With that, though, one of the things that I think is important for you guys is to understand that we're constituents of the county also, but the county tends to not care about the cities. They don't care about them as their constituents. They care about those that are in the counties and in the county areas and the urban areas that are not in the cities. And so remember to point that out to them often when when you're working with them, that they are your elected leaders. I think we're willing to help, but I don't know that, in dealing with the county on DCWA and some of the things in the Discovery Clean Water Alliance, for those that don't know what that is, which is sewer, they're backing out of that because of financial issues that they're having. I know they're having financial issues with jails and different things like that. And their priority list gets really short when it comes to parks and recreation and those type of things. And the conservation funds, they do have money in conservation funds that they can go after this. So that may be the hurdle is having something in place that you can say, look, this is who could run it, because I don't know that they're going to bite off on that they would want to run that. But if you guys have something in place, that may be a better selling point to leave it how it is, or to make it a 9-hole golf course. So I wish you luck. I don't know, Mr. Mayor, do you need approval to send the letter, or we good to go there?
Yeah, I would like to get a formal approval. So if anybody's willing to make a motion.
I move to approve sending the letter to the county.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Bowman and a second by Councilmember Munson. Any further discussion? All right. If I can have the city clerk, please take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Bowman,
Yes, ma'am.
Munson,
Yes.
DeRochers,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
and Mayor Cortez.
Yes. All right, motion passes unanimously. So you have a letter of support going out to the county. Hopefully it'll be more successful than our past letters that we've sent to the county, but we wish you the very best in that.
Thank you very much. This is deeply appreciated. I
Thank
might
you.
just mention that I'm a new kid on the block. I don't know about this city county issue out here, but I know that a lot of the homes now are part of Battleground. I think the village, for instance, is all Battleground, and the landing, a large group of people out there I've talked to are very interested in this, and they're part of Battleground. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we have citizen communication. I'll ask the city clerk, have we received any written citizen communication to be read in the public record?
Yes, sir. We've received 2 emails.
Okay, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to read those into the public record.
Thank you. The first comes from Emily Meek. Congratulations on your vote Monday, rejecting the radical rights paranoia and choosing to follow current law, which mandates state officials in times of emergency to listen to our better angels, attempt to promote the public health for the public good. Our family lives outside Battleground, but as a wise op-ed person said in a local paper recently, what happens in Battleground doesn't necessarily stay just in Battleground. If we voters were in the city's jurisdiction, we would certainly vote to retain the 4 of you who reflect sanity and reality as you make difficult decisions moving forward. Thank you. The second comes from Beth Jones. Concerning Tricia Davis being put on council in the way she was when we were so close to an election period. The process that put her there really pisses me off. You, the current city council, really let BG down on this one, and the county council really screwed us. She does not belong in this position now or ever. I have lost my faith and trust in you as a city council. Bev Jones, very concerned BG citizen.
All right, thank you very much. Go ahead and move on to our consent agenda. Council, does any member see any item they'd like to pull from the consent agenda? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion on the table from Councilmember Bowman
Second.
and a second by Councilmember Walters. If I can have the city clerk take a roll call vote on the consent agenda.
Councilmember Munson,
Yes.
DeRochers,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Mayor Cortez,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, consent agenda passes unanimously. Moving on to our first item of business. Council, we are going to be discussing the 2022 state legislative agenda. We're going to be, our state lobbyists will be making this presentation. I'll go ahead and turn this over to our city manager to begin this discussion.
Thank you again, Mayor Cortez. Yes, Mr. Weiss is with us tonight. He's going to give a brief presentation on the draft 2022 state legislative agenda and then what we have to expect coming up for this upcoming session. So I will turn it over to him.
Good evening, Council, and thank you, Erin. Annika's with me as well. She's been part of these conversations. I was going to say that it was just a few weeks ago that we gave you our sort of first presentation about looking forward to the 2022 legislative session. I was just looking at my calendar. It was actually 3 months ago. I was in end of July, so I guess time does fly. As just a really brief reminder, we're heading into the second session in the 2-year biennium. It's a 60-day session. It'll start January 10th. Supplemental budgets will be adopted. Transportation operating capital, operating and capital budgets are looking healthy. Operating budget's looking particularly healthy. Transportation budget is not looking particularly good. There continue to be deficits in that budget because of COVID impacts on gas tax and other revenue sources there. I really do think that this will be a truly a short session. I don't anticipate them going long. Again, a reminder, 22 is an election year, and legislators can't raise campaign money until session is done. So there's going to be a pretty strong incentive for them to get done there. We have been talking pretty much all summer long about the possibility of a special session for a transportation revenue package. I think that window is closing. There's maybe a very narrow gap there, but I think it is extraordinarily narrow now at this point. We did have a legislator this last week tell us that she thought there could be discussions during the 22 session, which would be unusual, but I think something to still pay attention to. So I guess this is all to say that the recommendation you see in front of us and that's in your packet is a really narrow legislative agenda. I don't think there's going to be a lot of time to accomplish much. We've been really successful, just as a brief reminder, just on the 92nd Avenue Sewer project, we've received $2.3 million in the capital budget in the last 2 years. And we continue to need to continue, I think, to draw focus on your 2 transportation priorities. So what you see is those top 2 transportation priorities, making sure that those are still on the front of our delegation and legislative leaders' minds. And then also following up not only with support for the AWC priorities and the Clark County Transportation Alliance, but a statement in there about retaining local control and protecting against unfunded mandates. And I really do think this is particularly important to focus on this next session. We know that the legislature has been contemplating changes to the Growth Management Act. We've been hearing a lot over the summer about, because of affordable housing issues across the state, about the desire to mandate cities to take a certain amount of density. Some as radical as following Oregon's model, which essentially allows duplexes, triplexes in any residential zone. That sort of combined with, over the years, last couple of years, there's been a lot of conversation around trying to mandate accessory dwelling units in lots. So we really do think we're going to have our hands full working on those types of issues and other ideas that the legislature has been talking about relative to mandates and removing local control. So, so for that reason, we have, like I said, a narrow agenda. The last item, rationale I would put forward for you on that, for having just a few priorities, I really do think that session is going to be some sort of hybrid virtual again this next session. We were hopeful over the summer that they were going to come back in person. I think probably in July, I probably told you that we thought we would be back in person, but that is not looking like the case. I don't know if legislators themselves will come to Olympia, but I don't think that the public will be allowed. So I think there's going to be pretty limited opportunities to engage with the legislature this year as well. We're going to have to do our work beforehand and by text message and those types of phone calls, those types of engagements. So that is our recommendation. I'm going to leave it there at this point and answer any questions, see if there's anything in my comments you'd like to ask about.
Okay, thank you, Josh, for that brief presentation. Council. Deputy Mayor Johnson.
Good day, Josh. How about the cops language? Have you heard of, are they going to clean up some of this so that 12th grade graduates, high school graduates can understand just what they meant a year ago?
I'm not sure I would say 12th grade graduates. That's a lofty goal. There has been conversation, and I do think there is legislative intent to provide some clarification. There's clearly been some unintended consequences. I do not believe the current majority and the authors of legislation from last year on police reform have an intent to do anything particularly broad scale related to generally the use of force. The ideas that we've heard them talk about needing clarification are around the two bills that were passed, one on tactics and one on use of force, and conflicting language about use of shotguns for deploying beanbags. That was clearly a oversight. They've said as much. The second issue is how our law enforcement officers should be responding in civil disturbances where you have behavioral health issues at play, but maybe not necessarily a criminal activity going on. That one is definitely going to be a little bit trickier. You're hearing in the dialogue now, you're hearing from mental health providers that are really nervous about, essentially saying that law enforcement can use force in a civil type of situation. So I see the chiefs on the line. I know that WASPIC, the Sheriffs and Police Chiefs Association, is really pushing forward on this. I think there will be a conversation. I think it's going to be very narrow and probably more narrow than our law enforcement friends would like to see, just realistically.
Thank you. And then, as always, it wouldn't be our meeting if I didn't ask you about the water. Our good friends down at the PUD, obviously, they're lobbyists. I assume you're thick as thieves, as the word goes. I didn't see anything on ours that talks about Paradise Point. And so, Ms. Erdman, again, has the PUD decided that they're trying to save natural gas and whatever else over the water currently? Is that what their plan is? Because we're now, since we started, Mr. Weiss, I think you've been with us now 3 years. It's always, it's kind of like the Cubs. Next year will be our year. And so we've not yet had our year. Have you talked with the PUD, Ms. Erdman, to see if it's going to be our year sometime?
I haven't discussed that with them yet. I reached out Friday. I haven't heard back yet, but I will follow up again this week and be in touch with council. Because,
it sounds like there's money in those kinds of plans, Mr. Weiss, if I understood you at the beginning. Is there money for that kind of activity?
There should be some resources for that kind of activity. Water and infrastructure should have some capacity.
I don't know if we just, but they hold all the plans, right, Ms. Erdman? Really, we're just a quarter into this.
Yeah, that is correct. It is their project. We do have some alternatives that have coming out of our water system plan that we will go through at the next meeting as well. So that will help kind of frame our plan over the next 20 years, but I will still continue to reach out to the PUD.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Johnson. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Annika, for coming and making your presentation to us. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the work you do on behalf of the city.
Mayor, if we could just
Yes.
get a consensus, it's okay for the agenda, so that's finalized as well.
Yes, council, are we good on the agenda moving forward, our legislative agenda? Thumbs up, thumbs up. I'm seeing 2 thumbs up, 3, 4. We're good to go. Okay, we got consensus, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, council, our next item of business is the Battleground Village concept. We will go ahead and consider continuing to work on a potential development agreement for a proposed plan allowing for alternative development. I'll go ahead and turn this back over to our city manager. And Aaron, it's on you.
Right. Thank you, Mayor Cortez. Yes. So from the last time we discussed this, we had consensus from council to continue working with the developers. They are here this evening to present the new concept. They've taken what you guys have seen in the past and revamped that. They've done pretty much what you requested in adding the additional parking. It looks like they're meeting the 1.5 parking spaces per unit. So I will turn this over to them to present, and then we'll have questions to follow. So Mr. Sterling and Mr. Campos, the floor is yours.
Good evening. So I know we have, I believe we have an additional council member tonight, but I'll just kind of go over the changes we've made since we've last spoke, but I'm sure there'll be some additional questions. I wish I was a little more of a public speaker like Leo, but you guys have to put up with me for a minute. So we have, we're proposing, based on input from our last meeting on this, 1.5 to 1 on the parking. When we started this process early this year, we were offering 1 to 1 and then trying to get some mitigating circumstances. We listened to council's input and we've adjusted it. And this is kind of our, I think this is our 4th iteration on this plan. And I think it really does take into account all of our dialogue on it and bring together something that I think the city that will actually be valuable for our city to have. So this is a 140 unit plan, still has the commercial facing the corners, 1.5 to park. And then the other thing that's kind of, the council can probably notice since our last meeting, we kind of tipped our hand about a large employer that we've been working with that's supportive of this, and they're going to be situated across Commerce in another piece that we have control of. But we do see this parcel, and I've kind of made this point a few times. We really see this not as just in a multifamily investment play. We see it as a workforce housing play that's really going to be a keystone for some people we're speaking with that want to bring companies to the area. If we can't provide affordable housing for modest income households, these guys are gonna struggle to find employees. And if they struggle to find employees, then there's not really a lot of incentive other than cheap land to move them to the battleground. So, we've got a fairly large piece of dirt that's got some substantial interest from different business owners. And we feel getting this piece in play will allow us to kind of keep working on those opportunities. So I think that really covers from where we left off last time, and I can take questions from there.
Okay, thank you so much. If I can get you to stop sharing your screen just for momentarily here. Councilmember Walters.
So in the park areas that you designed, is that just a bench and some grass, or do you have something else in mind for that area?
Well, we had something that was more sizable in mind, but I mean, these are the struggles every builder and every developer fight every day across Clark County. Is we came out with some pretty large landscape areas, but then the dialogue moved to parking, and so they're just kind of open areas for people to enjoy nature and take their dog out and stroll down the paths and walk through the area. But they've definitely they're definitely smaller than our previous presentation. I think earlier ones had pedestrian cross circulation across the site. This is a little bit more. It's a little bit more. I don't know what you'd say, chopped up, because you kind of follow the lines of the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little more utilitarian in that respect, unfortunately.
So with the parking, I couldn't tell from one to the other. Did you increase the number of spaces then with this new design?
Yes.
Okay. And was it increased to what is required at this moment, or is it still short?
If this was rezoned in the city of Battleground to any of the multifamily zones, it would be adequately parked per zone, per code. Is that 1.5 per door is Battleground's municipal code for apartments.
Mm-hmm.
In the downtown zone, just to clarify, no parking would be required. we actually could develop the property with ground floor commercial, residential above, and not have any of the parking. So what we did, we took from the last input at the meeting and we said, okay, we will look at the City of Battleground code, assume this is a multifamily development and design to those standards in the area of parking. So that's how we arrived at the numbers. If you looked at the drawing, I also put in the handicap spaces to make sure we had those shown. The park areas end up being 30 to 40 feet by 30 to 40 feet in that range. So there is room for more than just a bench. We could have probably a small play structure in one of them. We could have a water feature. Essentially what I did was I took the buildings and I attached them. So now they are L-shaped. Before I had walkways in between. So I was able to get some efficiencies in the area and consolidate the landscape. So we feel it's a very usable site in terms of the open spaces, but it isn't a dog park or a play area where people are going to run and play.
Right.
It's more of a resting. There could be some activities for small children and animals, but it's not a large park. It's more of what we call a pocket park.
Mhm. One more question and then I'll stop. The other question I had is how many businesses would it just be one business, like a 2-story type deal on the corners?
It'd be ground floor commercial.
Okay.
There's a pretty anemic commercial market out there. We're hoping we can find users. We've talked about once again, this thing kind of morphed from the downtown zone being so intensive. We could have built a giant mass with no parking and just created a mess out there, to saying, hey, let's find something that's kind of in between a traditional multifamily zone and this downtown zone. But we've kind of gravitated to that downtown zone or to that multifamily zone. We're kind of checking those boxes now. So I was looking at doing some type of, maybe on the north side, trying to work with a farmer's market and get them in there. The south side, I'm hoping we can utilize some of that for operations and gym and that kind of thing. So it's kind of not bringing a ton of it. I do think it's important to keep that commercial facade along Commerce for the visibility. But that's also kind of an area that's been kind of shrunk down.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Walters. Councilmember DeRochers.
Okay, I have 2 questions and then a comment. So I don't see on here how many ADA units, and then I don't see the low income, like Section 8 type low income.
Yeah, I went back to look at in our original. So we talked about doing 10% at 80% of median or of the units, or the ground floor commercial. And I'm going back and looking at notes that are about a year old. So on the ADA, at least 10% of them will be ADA units on the ground floor. But like we discussed on the previously, the entire ground floor that's not commercial will be all units that have no transitions, and they'll all be available for elderly or mobility impaired people. True ADA units will probably see 9 to 10% of them, and those are the ones with the special dishwasher, lower countertops, the enhanced bathtubs, that kind of thing. But keep in mind that so we have 36, 36, 34, 34. The sum of those 4 numbers will be ground level units that would have been above a commercial space had we just gone in and used the downtown. I mean, we could do the ground floor completely commercial in the downtown zone, and every unit would be up the stairs, right? this puts 100 units on the floor that they're available to elderly and mobility impaired people that aren't qualifying specifically as disabled or not they don't have the badge in their car. They're just somebody that has a bad back and they need a unit like that. And I think that population is only going to grow in time as the boomer generation ages, and they want to age in place and age in town.
So how many units did you say? I'm sorry.
It'd be the sum of that. So 34, 34, 36, 36.
About 45, I think.
34. Yeah. Well,
That will be ground level.
On the ground level.
About 45.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
About 45.
And then what was the low income ones? How many of those?
So we had it at, like I said, I was kind of going back. We had this ground floor commercial thing, or 10% lit at 80% of median. But then we kind of, like I said, our conversations really gravitated away from these discussions and moved right to parking. So that's where our focus has been. So we've parked. So
are there no longer?
No, that would be something that we want to discuss in the DA. I'm not trying to change anything. I do want to stress though, we've listened to council and we have made some changes, and it's a give and take to keep a project affordable. And we don't want to have a luxury apartment project out there. We want to have a workforce housing project out there. We want somebody that comes to work for, Stewart Mechanical or Maddox or the foundry across the street to be able to afford it. So yeah, we can definitely accommodate the affordability covenant though, and we'd have to just discuss how that's going to be measured going forward. And then I think it'd probably come at the cost of some of the commercial space though.
Okay, well, that one's really important to me, so that's why I'm harping on you about it.
No, it's important to me too. I think affordable. Okay. I'm a big affordable housing advocate, and I think we can do something here that provides something that's valuable to that area.
Okay, and I just had a comment that I would also appreciate some sort of play structures in the larger of those parks. Something fun.
We can do
a little
that.
Something. So kids don't have to go all the way over to the other park, just so they can be close to their home.
You bet. We can accommodate that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeRochers. Councilmember Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and for taking what we had said last time, going back and working it out, bringing it back to us. I'm sure it's tough. As I sit here tonight, I'm hearing, where's the parks? Where's parking? Where's low-income housing? Where's commercial space? And that's our job as a council, is to decide what's most important to us, right? And if we were to put all of that together and we say we want, if you listen to everything that we said tonight and you say, okay, we're gonna go do that, we wouldn't have affordable housing. We wouldn't have, or we'd have streets that are packed because we would have to take out parking to be able to make it so you guys can make money, you guys can develop. Contrary to what some people think, developers, some people seem to think that developers just come in and take advantage of the community and leave. Developers are here because somebody in our community is willing to or needing what they're developing. If people aren't moving here, I don't know too many developers that are coming in and building houses or apartments or anything else to let them sit vacant. It's a horrible business plan, and it doesn't work out very well. But as I looked at it, I liked what you guys did. I'm not as concerned about the parks. It's 2 blocks away, 2 blocks to the west, 1 block to the south, and you've got a park there, the Battleground Village Park. The parking is more of an issue, and we've seen that throughout the city, and we've really hit on that as a council. The last thing that I just want to make sure that we understand, because I've heard this a couple times over the last few months here, that this is not industrial property. We've had some people say this was industrial property. We need to not take industrial property out. It's for jobs. This is not industrial property. This was zoned and zoned as downtown commercial, correct? Okay, and in a downtown commercial zoning, you guys have already hit on it. We could have a lot more apartments, a lot more commercial, a lot less parking spaces. So I think that you guys have done a good job trying to listen. You're getting, unfortunately for Christine, I've said this before, when you get 2 attorneys in a room, you'll get 4 opinions. When you get 7 council members in a room, like, good luck, right? Because you're going to get a lot of opinions. So I appreciate what you guys have done. Whether we like it or not, I think it will be a good project. I think it'll be successful. And I think that you guys have done a good job of listening to us and going back and trying to figure that out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowman. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, council, I'll look to entertain a motion to accept the proposal and bring forth a development agreement outlining the alternative development as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bowman. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember DeRochers. If I can get the city clerk to please take a roll call vote.
Councilmember DeRochers,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Munson,
No.
Mayor Cortez,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Bowman.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing the final DA.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, council, let's see here. I was going to, let's see here. Nope, I wasn't. Never mind. I paused for a second. Our next item is the West Side Employment District. This is going to be a presentation about a new zoning district and regulations on the west side of the city intended for job creation. Turn this over to Mr. Crummett.
Good evening, council and interested citizens. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Before you this evening is a proposed new zoning district. This would be packaged in with our annual code review toward the end of the year. But I wanted to split this out because there's larger policy implications, and I wanted to get any input up front before we run this through Planning Commission and then back to you. The City Council recently adopted the land use master plan. One of the main purposes of the citywide master plan was to look at areas for more employment growth. We found that the city's mixed use districts were low performing in terms of producing jobs, and often it was kind of what went first in some of these mixed use districts set the precedents for development that would surround it. So the recommendations that came out of the master plan was to take our mixed use and revert back to either industrial, which we've done in many cases where there is industrial nearby. However, on the west side of the city, we thought it would make a lot of sense is to actually create a new district. We'll call it West Side Employment. And the purpose of this district would be, again, to primarily be a place where we can grow local jobs, recruit for, trade, international or national trade jobs. Some of the basics of this district would be to discourage uses that are just going to be kind of low performing land uses, such as mini storage, or some of the more heavy industrial, which would not fit in well with like office or manufacturing. We would allow up to 25% commercial in this district to kind of supplement the employment-based uses. One of the features of this district is we'd require a minimum of 6 jobs or 6 full-time jobs per built acre. So conceptually what that kind of would look like is I took a look at some of our employers in the village, specifically on the south end, considered corporate south. Think of Delta Computers, Maddox Industrial, even industries like Wolf Industries, who started with a few people and are now upwards of 40 employees. For example, Signal Hound, they have on average 12 full-time jobs per built acre. Maddox Industrial, 6 jobs per built acre. Wolf Industries is 12 jobs per acre. I didn't even bother about calculating, Delta Computer Office, that'd be much higher. But those are kind of the mixes of job growth we'd like to target. Specifically, I hear a lot from our trade industries, plumbers, electricians, road builders, et cetera. They're looking for land to grow their businesses. We have very few acres left. So this seems like the natural area to kind of grow. So there's a couple parts to this. The first thing that we'd look to do immediately is to redesignate this mixed use district on the west side. This is currently in the city of Battleground, and change it to West Side Employment. And then this is a few years out when the city has the opportunity to expand its urban growth boundary. We'd look at either all of this or most of this to be the same employment district. And then in terms of just the details of the districts itself, I wrote all this out. I'm not going to go through it all, but we did kind of show this column that's highlighted in yellow, some of the uses that would be permitted in it. The P means permitted outright, X means prohibited. Kind of went through this, and like I say, it would feel much like a light industrial district. It would allow for some commercial. There's one item I think we kind of just left open-ended for discussion, was the question of we would allow retail, office, things like that, but in terms of fast or drive-through restaurants, I think we put a question mark there. I think the thought was for the commercial, we want it to really serve the immediate needs of the district, but not just kind of be for pass-through traffic primarily. Well, I'll stop there and open it up for any questions.
All right, Councilmember Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sam, what would be the difference between this West Side Employment District and the employment campus that we had where the Clark College was supposed to go?
Without comparing each right now, the main difference was the employment campus. I would look at it more as like an office park, college campus type environment that may not allow things like contractor establishments. It'd be probably more like polished office type setting. I think this would have a little bit more light industrial feel.
Okay, so what if, like, I know this because I rent a unit from Tappaney at their RV storage. And I don't know how many of those units are actually businesses that, are storing stuff in there and looking for places to, move to eventually when they outgrow those areas. Does that, when you're talking, an electrical company or a small electrical company or HVAC company or plumbing company, things like those, does that prohibit them if they were to buy a building there, on an acre and a half, but they only have three employees, that they sub stuff out, or, but they need a place for their business to grow? Would that prohibit that?
It could, yeah. If someone wanted to come into this district and said, we're primarily, say, a storage facility, a truck farm, I would say we need to have you look in our industrial district, but not this district.
Okay, so if you had a home builder that needed a shop, needed a place, they use primarily subs. They're not full-time employees of theirs. They're subcontractors or other businesses. This would be an area that they would not be allowed to go. Is that correct?
It would be correct. Again, it'd be based on the size of their built area. And, I think there's still some wiggle room in terms of negotiating. If they said, hey, we're small right now, we can guarantee within, for example, our business plan calls for 10 employees in 1 year, 20 employees. I think there's some discretion there. I mean, the primary goal is we never want to turn anyone away, but I have seen where you get one, major storage facility that takes up 10 acres and we've just invested, say, for example, $6 million in sewer. I would say that's a bad investment for the city. If the city's goal truly is to create jobs. So it's somewhat of a balancing act. Like I say, though, we are going to be redesignating other sections in our city to industrial, where we always want to have options for people in our city to grow their business, whatever that is. But I think this would be a little more focused on jobs.
Well, that's one of, when you bring this up, I don't know if Mr. Mayor, if you were with me. I know Mr. DeSandro was when he was mayor, and Jeff Swanson was our city manager, and we were in Washington, D.C. talking to USDA and economic development and all these different agencies trying to figure out, how do we grow? What do we grow in Battle Ground? And one of the things that they brought up was, incubation. We have a lot of businesses that come out of here. A lot of them are in the trades, but a lot of businesses come out of here that are in the trades, and they need that place to start, and they're looking for that place to start. And I've heard it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard it, because I'm in the trades, especially one, but I hear it quite often that, hey, we'd like to be in Battle Ground, but, we don't have that light industrial type facility. And if people were to go in there and build those, how quickly they would fill up. And that's why they're going to storage units and things like that to run their businesses out of. But I would like to see us have something like this. I would love to see us build that out, and that it doesn't just end up being homes. The question I have, though, is when we look at the urban growth to the west, do you envision that continuing to be this same zoning, or do you think that will change because of the way the lots are to the west compared to where we are out to 92nd, with large chunks of property, and many of them that were bought by the state or whatever that are sitting there? What's your opinion on that?
Well, our master plan does call this area all out for employment growth. They had it labeled as industrial.
Okay.
Even though there are a lot of smaller, lots with homes on them. But again, with plans like this, you got to think on a 20-year horizon. And you can all see examples where the city's transitioned from, large lot homes to other uses.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I think it would be a benefit in that area. I just hope that if we do this, that we can stay the course with it, because it seems to be. I mean, Mr. Johnson and I were sitting there when the employment campus, I think it was the Strohs, was that their names that came in and had, changed that and sat there for 20 years and couldn't make any money on their property. Maybe this will give us a way to promote and to attract businesses. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowman. Councilmember Munson.
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, I like where you're going with this, and you stated earlier that first parcel that's in the city limits, I too would like to see you move forward with that. I do have three items on here that I was wanting to ask you a question about. Number 36. Not so concerned so much with production processing, but research facilities. That would probably allow you to get your 6 bodies per acre. What is the reason for leaving that one out, making that prohibited?
What number was that again, Councilmember Munson?
36.
The marijuana processing?
Yeah, and research facility.
We left that out because our I think it had to do with compatibility. I've gotten several complaints by businesses where they're located by some of these marijuana processing facilities. Just the smell is the big complaint. So that was the primary reason. This would be a district that would be next to other employers, also within, certain proximity of residential. So that was one of the, I think, main reasons.
Well, oh, sorry about that.
Oh, I was going to say, we also have a pretty specific ordinance on where producer processors are to be located based on radiuses of things like parks, schools, all that. So I didn't do that analysis, but if the council feels like it's something that they do want to entertain, let me know.
Oh, I'm good with it. I just wanted to kind of get your thought on that, and your primary reason makes sense for me. My next one was item 62, and it does have the subnote to it. My question on why would we prohibit services for lodging? If, I like your vision of what this creates for trade jobs and things of that nature. With that being said, wouldn't we be looking at maybe people from across the country coming in and looking at their subordinate companies or things of that nature? Could lodging be, instead of being prohibited, could it be maybe conditional?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. There were a lot of these where, between me, Aaron, myself, and Emily, we were kind of scratching our heads on some of these. So any of this is fair game. I mean, this is, if you think, a hotel makes sense here. Yeah, I mean, maybe we do go commercial on that.
Well, I'll just speak for me. I think it would be a conditional would be appropriate, then that way we can look at it as they come in. We want to have something that fits the needs of the businesses, but I would hate to see us exclude it. And then my last one is 72.
The thought on that was this may not be a high jobs producing use. Again, that's one where we could, the thing is if we went permitted, allow it, maybe that makes sense, because they're still going to have to meet that 6 jobs per built acre. So
out of the 3, Sam, that I have, the last 2, I personally would like to see those listed as conditional. That way, you know, we're vetting them as it comes through. We're making sure that it fits the need, but I just don't like to see them prohibited. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Munson. Councilmember DeRochers.
Yeah, I just have, I'm trying to visualize what this would look like. And in my head, I'm thinking that you're implying that these would be all individual businesses would build up the property themselves. But then I'm wondering, could it also be like a business park too, or have business parks there? Because I hear a lot of people wanting that kind of space as well, where they can just rent an area that has a shop so they can do window tinting or things like that. So I'm just curious, like what your vision is for this area, like how they build it.
Yeah, good question. It's pretty preliminary at this point. It could go a number of different ways. It could be business by business. It could be that you do get something like Progress Industrial Park, where someone comes in and builds industrial condominiums. I think ideally what the city should do is, and this would be at kind of the comprehensive planning stage or sometimes shortly after, is put together a sub area plan for this employment district where you actually look at the whole thing holistically, figure out the best places to put all the streets, what kind of landscape standards do you want, where should the commercial nodes be? You know, I think that would be the natural stage that would happen in time, is that would give the city a little bit more control of how this gets built out. But I think at this point, I think what we're trying to do is get at least this small section of the city redesignated so that we don't prematurely get a use at 92nd and Main that just does not work for the city. I think that's kind of the key thing, is getting this incremental step in. And then there's always, like with any plan or new code, we'll be tweaking this as we go. It's, you know, there'll be things that we come back each year to the Planning Commission and then council to make adjustments as we learn more how it's working.
Okay, if somebody wanted to develop like a business park there, is that something that would be suitable?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then they would just have to meet their own 6 per acre.
Right. Yeah, they could come in holistically and say, this is our business park. On average, we're going to meet 6 jobs per acre.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeRochers. Anybody else? Deputy Mayor Johnson.
Sam, if a box retailer came in, would they fit in this?
Let's look.
It talks about in there something about unenclosed. I'm not quite certain what that is, but enclosed.
So it would be, yeah, it would be authorized. We've got those as conditional use permits. So enclosed would be, you know, enclosed would be, let's say Home Depot wants to come in, have at it. Unenclosed would be like car sales or
okay.
That may be listed specifically in here. I can't remember, but
so an open air establishment.
Exactly.
In relation to okay. That's that was my question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Johnson. Okay, anybody else? All right, Sam, thank you very much. Again, this was for information only. And I'm sure this will be coming before us at a future date or back to us. So, okay, moving forward on to our third quarter financial review. Council, we're going to get presented information on the city's financial position at the end of the third quarter. I'll turn it over to our Finance and Information Services Director, Megan Lowry. Megan, take it away.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, we're going to go through our Q3 financial performance for 2021. My slides are not working. There we go. So as far as 2021 overview, we are still moving forward with the increased street preservation. As you may have noticed, all of that work is done throughout the city for 21. We're just waiting on some final invoices for those projects. We just have the ADA ramp replacement portion of that to complete. We do have increased public safety in our 21 budget, including those additional police FTEs, which those are moving forward. I believe we have somebody in backgrounds. Increased beautification, this is wrapping up as we're nearing the fall term, and then increased parks and recreation. That was some increased seasonal work throughout the city, maintaining our parks. Grant funds, we had about $9 million in transportation grant funded projects in 2021 budgeted. We're still moving forward with those projects. Many of them are still in the design and permitting phase. The City Hall roof replacement, as well as the HVAC system, was completed in August and September, filing those projects up. We did receive our federal stimulus for the American Rescue Plan Act for our first tranche of funds, still waiting for a few items before bringing it to council for final determination on how to expend those funds. We do have planned for our park bond payoff as of December 1st with our park impact fees, as well as some real estate excise taxes. We're working on the parks master plan, as well as a land use update, as well as the water system master plan. I believe some of those are coming to council at the next council meeting. And then also always looking towards long-term sustainability planning. Financial highlights for the third quarter: sales tax is up $609,000 to date from the prior year, which is a 28% increase, which, if you recall, 2020 was actually a record year for sales tax. So the fact we're up even more is interesting in this economic environment that we're in. Development activity is also up. We have had 268 single-family residences, 4 commercial, 6 multifamily, compared to 145 single-family residences and 1 commercial in 2020. Building permit revenue is up $464,000, a 90% increase over 2020. Building plan checks are up 101% from 2020, and planning reviews are up 16% from 2020. Overall, development is going strong. Real estate excise tax is also meeting historic highs again, which largely has to do with the cost of housing as well as the turnover going on. We're up $391,000 from 2020, which is a 39% increase. We're up to about $1.4 million in real estate excise tax to date. Again, with the ARPA funding, that's just sitting in our coffers earning interest. The City Hall re-roof is completed, and the HVAC, as we talked about. And then the treatment tanks from CPU, that's also complete, as well as road preservation. Looking at our overall general fund revenues, we're at 87.3% of budget, well within the 75% target that we would like to see. And then looking at overall where those funds are coming from, the majority obviously come from taxes and then the services that we provide. And looking at our sales tax, you can see that utility tax, we've taken in $1.7 million for 2021, sales tax, $3 million, then property tax, $2 million. So as you can see, the majority right now, which is interesting because this used to be a 30-30-30 split, is now mostly coming from sales tax. And looking at our sales tax revenue to date, we have a budget of $3.6 million as of the end of September, based on accrual accounting, which is the 2-month lag for January and February. We're at $2.7 million. And as of cash basis, so what we've collected and taken in from January through September is $3.5 million. This graph shows you the last trend over the last 4 years for each month. The far right column, the purple column, is 2021. And as you can see, it is far outpacing the last 4 years. And looking at our overall sales tax revenue of what the city itself collects, gross receipts within the city of Battleground to date are at $422 million. Of the sales tax collected, $27 million goes to the state of Washington, $2.9 million goes to transit. We collect the $3.5 million we discussed. The county gets $632,000, criminal justice gets $421,000, and then mental health, $421,000. Of the criminal justice tax, we actually get a portion of that back at about a 64.9%. So we've received $274,000 of that back. And thinking where are those revenues coming from, or where is that sales tax coming from? For the same time period in 2020, we were at 50.4% coming from retail trade. Right now, we're at 46.1% coming from retail trade, whereas construction is at 17.7% as compared to 14.5% in 2020. Before I move on to general fund expenditures, does anyone have any questions about the general fund revenues?
Ms. Lowry,
Yes.
when you look at the sales tax, do they break it down to say what was collected in the county and what was collected outside the county, as in Amazon and that kind of crowd? Do they break it down that way?
I do have that information. I have it broken down by the individual businesses I get, as far as dividing it over what is getting shipped into the city and not shipped into the city. I haven't gone through each individual vendor to do that. However,
I wouldn't be interested in the business, don't care, but it would be interesting to see what's bought outside the city and collected tax on in comparison to what's bought inside the city and collected tax on. Just to see if, I mean, is a third of us shopping outside the city, and yet we're still collecting on that. So you do have that kind of information.
Correct. And I was going to say that of the businesses I'm seeing, there is a good portion. There is definitely an increase. Some have come on board that have never been seen or come upon my radar prior to 2020. So that's absolutely something that has increased. What that exact dollar amount is, I don't know, but I can definitely get that information.
That would be grand. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Okay. Sorry, this is Cherish. I have one. So this just got me thinking about how they changed the law with the where the tax goes to where it's sent. Does this have a lot to do with that? The major increases? I know we were like kind of watching it for a while to see, but I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yes, the destination based is actually something that changed quite a while ago, even before 2020. I think the result is ultimately the pandemic. A lot of folks are having things shipped to their home, and the delivery businesses of food have also seen an uptick. I think that has a lot to do with it. And yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just thinking about, I just imagine if we didn't have that destination thing during the pandemic, would have really missed out. So,
you
anyways.
are correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So moving on to the general fund expenditures. These are the various departments that our general fund supports. So looking at general fund budget to actual by object, we are at an overall 65.2% of our budget to date for the general fund. For debt, we're at 100%. That is now paid off. That was our old phone system, and that will no longer be on here moving forward into 2022. Intergovernmental is at 86.5% because we have been billed all of our CRESA, both the regular charges as well as our EMS per capita for the entire 2021. So all it's remaining is the election invoice from the county as far as that revenue or expenditure stream goes. Everything else is on track for where we are to date. Looking at it by department, again, we're at 65%. All of the departments are within the 75% target, except for the IT department. And that has to do with the timing of the maintenance contracts for our various IT services. So are there any questions about the general fund expenditures before I move on? Okay. This just is a graph that shows you real estate excise tax. As I said, as of the end of September, we're at 1.4 million for total REIT collected, which is pretty close to the entirety of 2020. To date for 2020, we are at 1 million. So quite a significant jump in real estate excise tax, and it does not appear to be slowing. Moving on to the streets budget. As I mentioned earlier, the road preservation work is completed except for the ADA ramp replacement. We're just still waiting for the closeout, which is why that services line item is still low. For the revenues, we're at 57% for motor vehicle tax, which is actually higher than we were at last year at the same time frame. And due to the 2-month lag of getting those receipts, we're actually right on target for where we budgeted, because that's at 58%. So we're 1% shy of what we budgeted for motor vehicle tax. And overall, we're at 34.3 of the budget. However, that's because of the services line item. Again, we're waiting on those invoices. Are there any questions about the streets fund before I move on to parks? For the Parks Fund, we have seen a return of rentals now that the centers are open. We're at 69.3 overall for the budget for this time frame, which again, this is a little bit lower than pre-pandemic times. And the 2020 line or column that you see is kind of misleading because that was prior to a number of refunds going out for the fact that we did not open through the holiday season. So we're at about 18,000 for the community center rentals and the senior center, 5,600. For expenditures, we're at 58.4% of the overall budget. So things are on track there. We had less expenditures due to the fact we weren't open in the beginning of the year at the centers. Are there any questions about parks before I move on? Moving on to the storm drainage fund. Our revenues are at 72.6%. Our drainage services, as you are all aware, we were not charging penalties up until October 1st for any of our utilities due to the mandate disallowing us to do so. However, we are at 74.2% of our budgeted amount for drainage services. For our expenditures, we're at 64.4%. We have completed the op storage building and that has been built out and charged to the budget. So they're just working on the decant facility is the only other capital item that will be coming out of this budget for this year. Are there any questions about storm drainage before I move on? Looking at our water budget, this is an interesting budget to take a look at. If you look at our revenues, we're at 49.1%. That is a misnomer due to the fact from the transfer from SDC, which was meant to pay for the CPU treatment plants. However, those came in cheaper due to the fact Ridgefield came on board and partnered as well. So those cost us half of what we anticipated. The interesting line item is the water services. We're at 83.7% of our budgeted amount, and that has to do with water usage. So because of that line item, if you go down to the expenditures, you'll see that our purchase water is at $1 million compared to our budgeted line item of $750,000. So we purchased a significant amount of water during the hot season this summer in order to serve our customers who were purchasing that water. Are there any questions about the water fund before I move on? Moving on to our sewer fund, our revenues are at 68.8% of budget, which is on target for this time of year. And as far as our expenditures, we're at 62.5% of our overall expenditures, which is again on target for where we're at. Are there any questions about sewer before I move on? Cash and investments, the city is holding $60.2 million in all accounts in all funds. We have 55% of our cash at the county investment pool. And then we have 19.8 million at the local government investment pool with the state. We have 5 million in long-term investments, and then we have 2.1 million in our bank. And then the graph to the right just shows you what the utility funds hold is the bottom blue section, what other funds holds is the middle red, and then the general fund is the green. And we right now are currently quite a bit higher than we've been in the past. And a large part of that has to do again with we're holding 3 million in the ARPA funds on hand. So are there any questions about anything I presented or anything else to do with the finances of the city of Battleground?
Megan, can you stop the screen sharing?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, council, any questions for Megan on her presentation? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you so much, Megan, for that presentation. We appreciate all the work you do on that. So,
thank you.
All right, moving on to our administrative reports. Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor Cortez. Yeah, first up, I want to talk about the community center landscaping project that we kicked off. Just a second, I got to figure out how to share my screen now. All right. So we kicked off this community center landscaping project back in February, where we designated the committee. So back in February 2021, we had council members Johnson and DeRochers. And then we had 3 planning commission members that were designated to the group, Stacy Kaiser, Josie Calderon, and Neil Butler. From the staff side, Mr. Crummett, Ms. Cedarholm, and myself have been working with the group. Stacy Kaiser is actually a landscape architect by trade, and she has volunteered her time to help put together a design for the project. So we met with her with Public Works and Parks out on site to kind of explain some of the issues that we wanted to see addressed at the community center and come up with some different ideas. She was able to go to the drawing board and complete a plan early in September. We had a committee meeting last week, and the committee agreed on the design that she had come up with and chose to move that forward. This shows the overall concept. We focused a lot of attention on the patio area of the community center, and the idea there being that there's a lot of shrubs and so forth that are overgrown. It doesn't look very good. We do host a lot of events. It would be nice to clean that area up so that when we do have weddings and other events, they can use that as a backdrop for pictures and an additional space to the actual interior of the community center. So this kind of shows the back patio area where the dark lines are. That's kind of a natural looking stream that would be made up of river rock. Would not have water feature in it, but it would be a dry riverbed stream to look that way. The larger circles around the area are bigger boulders that would be placed out there to give that feel. The trees that you're seeing here would be left of what's existing, and then we would add to that around it. We've also started taking a look at the landscaping around the exterior of the community center, and she's made some suggestions on how to clean that up, especially along the front side, breaking up some of the shrubs with the tulips that are currently there. And then we've talked about some increased maintenance and landscaping along the this east side as well. The other piece that was discussed is the parking lot. We would like to remove the trees within the parking lot now because they are not the prettiest, and then redo those. So she's also put together a planting plan for us, and this is definitely not set in stone, but it gives us an idea of how to add back to the space. So you can see what she showed before as what's left on there, and then this new planting plan along all through the patio. These little areas of hash marks would be kind of raised areas, so that would just add some depth and different dimensions to the space. And then the other thing that we discussed was trying to find a large noble fir Christmas tree to replace Charlie Brown that's already out next to Fairgrounds Park. So these are some of the plant samples that she discussed. Everything would be native, low maintenance, easy to take care of, and a native to the area. So these are just a few things that she had suggested. Obviously, arborvitaes along the back, and then some of these nicer bushes in the interior. So with that, we did discuss as the group to send out a letter of support to local businesses. Not only, so sending them out to, like, for example, some of the local contracting companies, local landscaping companies, banks and other businesses that may want to provide some sponsorships for the program. So in front of you today, and I sent it via email earlier this afternoon for you to review, is a letter that we would like to get approval to send out, soliciting for sponsorships for the project and see what we can get as far as funding moving forward. In the meantime, we do plan on, stop my share here. We will plan on cleaning some things out. So if you guys are on board with this project and moving forward with the temporary design, I did talk with Mr. Herseg later on in the week, and we can have the parks crew start focusing on tearing out what is existing there and maybe laying down some bark that will probably make it look a little bit better even in the interim, while we start working towards sponsorships and funding to put this in. We also have a plan within the 2022 budget to replace the trees and the bark within the parking area, and we can work on getting some of those other side areas cleaned up. So I will turn over to you guys for questions and looking for support for the letter.
Aaron, are you looking just for consensus then?
Yeah, the group already agreed upon it. We just wanted to make sure council was still on board and was aware before we sent these out. So.
Okay, council, I got thumbs up, thumbs up. Yep, all right, great. Councilmember Walters.
I just have a question about, you spoke about some rocks or boulders or something that you were wanting to do. Is there any way to like graffiti proof those?
Yeah, that's a good point. They are all within the patio area, so they're in the fenced area of the community center back patio. So we haven't had any issues to date in that area. So
okay,
yeah,
all right, thanks.
behind the gate. Yeah.
Karen, I think we have consensus on that. So
all right. Next up, I just wanted to keep you guys in the loop. I did hear from Comcast last week. They Washington State Department of Commerce has some grant funding coming out for broadband expansion. They contacted me to see if we'd be interested in partnering or being their sponsor for a project. So when we sat down to discuss the project as a whole, the area that they're looking at is not within the city of Battle Ground or its urban growth boundary. So they were looking to us to sponsor because they believed it was part of that urban growth area. It is not. So they have now turned and reached out to the county to see if they would be a sponsor. He's going to get back to me if they could expand that project and bring it closer to our area. But with that said, I did want to make sure you guys were aware, they do plan on upgrading our speeds, our download speeds within the city of Battle Ground starting in August of 2022. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware that is coming. They're planning on doing that on their own accord. So information there. And then last but not least, the 2022 preliminary budget was sent to all of you on Wednesday. There's also hard copies available in your inboxes at City Hall. So for you and all the members of the public, you can also refer to our 2022 budget website for information. And then we will host a series of 3 budget related public hearings starting on November 1st. So we'll have one November 1st, November 15th, and December 6th. So the $55 million budget is balanced and includes the city's general operating fund as well as utilities and capital funds. So we will start the public hearing process next. And that concludes oh wait, I'm sorry. If you don't have any questions for me, I will turn it over to Megan of Finance. She has one.
Council, any questions for Erin before she turns it over? Deputy Mayor Johnson.
No question, Aaron, but let me just say, yesterday I cruised through the skate park, and whatever company that did that, we should keep them close, where they did a wonderful job. other than the new sign, which the sign which is coming. Wow, it looks new.
Yeah, it looks brand new. It's pretty impressive.
It was impressive. So I don't know how they removed all that off of all of that, but we certainly should keep their name and number because they just did a wonderful job.
All right, Megan.
All right, so within the last week, we got a couple interlocal agreement requests from Clark County, and they're for things that we have been doing with them for a very long time. They're just some updated agreements with them. One is our agreement with their Clark County Treasurer's Office for our participation in their county investment pool. And that is due to the fact that they have been transitioning to a new bank within the last year. So they're updating all of their agreements. So that agreement will come forward to council at the next meeting for your approval. And then the second one is a interlocal related to the Registered Sex Offender Program Award. We receive about $11,000 a year from the county, and we do an agreement with them every year. In order to receive those funds, it comes from the state, and the county is the fiscal agent for that. Our officers do the home checks, and that grant pays for that time of the officers. So that will also be coming forward in the packet next meeting. And that's all I have.
Deputy Mayor Johnson.
Megan, just a quick question. Have we caught up with the county finally on all the hundreds of thousands of dollars we were offering them for the jail services? Have they decided to bill us properly and to play the game, or are we still holding out on a couple $100,000 because they don't want it?
Well, we are up to date through 2019, and they
And what year
are
is it?
finishing 2021. They are finalizing the 2020 to get 2020 closed out and 2021. So they are still having some trouble in invoicing us for those services due to their staffing shortages there.
And what kind of money are we talking about?
We book about $50,000 a year in an estimated amount. That's what it's been approximately each year. It's going to be a little bit less due to just the court system in and of itself and how many people we've sent to their jail. But that's, I'm guessing about 50 to 60 is what we'll end up paying them.
From 19?
No, from 20.
From 20, okay. Because the only reason I ask is because I'm sure that if we were in debt to them in a great deal, they would probably be calling us. So maybe we just hold on and don't take their calls. But I guess that's how we'll play the game. But I know you won't do that. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions for Megan? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Megan, for that. Council member communications, council. All right, seeing none, council. Our next meeting date is November 1st, 2021. Our meeting will begin at 7 p.m. Everybody have a safe and great rest of the week. We are adjourned.